Alright, so, this was a fanfiction idea that was voted on over on Patreon, and I want to thank everyone for sending me the votes. As always, if you'd like to be part of the polls over on Patreon, just hit the link below, head on over there, hit the first tier. That'll allow you access to the polls as well as the episode reviews I will be doing. And for a quick announcement, I will be doing, and I'll probably do another talk about it in other points, but I will be doing episode reviews of X-Men 97, which will be coming out in a few weeks, but I will be doing episode reviews of X-Men 97, the animated series, when it comes out March 20th. So yeah. Anyway, we're here to talk about the fanfiction that I was pleasantly surprised won the fanfiction idea poll. And that was, by a massive amount, as you can see, Blacula versus Candyman. Yeah, we've basically got the two biggest horror African-American icons battling it out. I thought that would be a cool idea. After I had done my review of Blacula Return of the King, I kind of talked about like how Rodney Barnes and Jason Sean Alexander would be so great on a Candyman book. I then thought, like, hey, what if we had Candyman fight Blacula? And that idea just kind of wormed its way into this. So let's get started. So the story is present-day Los Angeles, and essentially we follow a young woman by the name of Angela. And Angela's whole thing is that she's basically preserving myths, modern-day myths and legends throughout black culture. And her whole thing is that she's come to Los Angeles for two different things. One is learning about more of the history of Daniel Robitaille and how his mythos of the Candyman and becoming the Candyman grew further out into the world rather than just in Cabrini Green, because she's done research in Cabrini Green. She did research in New Orleans. Yes, we're referencing the sequels. The god-awful sequels, even though, yes, Tony Todd was the shining example of how good, he was the only thing he put on, I'm sorry to, sidestep real quick, but, Tony Todd, God bless you, man, those movies were god-awful, but you always put on your big boy pants and made those movies worth watching, so, salute to you. Anyway, but yeah, so there were a series of killings in the late 90s of the supposed Candyman. And the reason why and the other reason is because there were another series of killings done by the Blacula murders in the 70s. Essentially, in predominantly African-American neighborhoods in LA, there were a series of vampiric-like killings that were blamed on a creature only known as Blacula. Now, the reason why Angela is keeping all of this information, doing all this research, is talking about, how myths and legends can turn into, and stories can turn into something else, and how they've kind of damaged the images of the people they were, of who these creatures were. On one side, she's trying to show that the Candyman killings just basically tarnish the image of Daniel Robitaille, who was a slave, who was historically, Daniel Robitaille, real dude. He got murdered by a lynch mob for falling in love with a white woman and getting her pregnant. And on the other side, she has figured out, she's doing research because a lot of the Blacula murders were blamed, and who she claims is Blacula was a African prince named Mamuwalde, who did go to Central Europe to find help to stop the slave trade, but was now. In the movie, for those who have never seen Blacula, Mamuwalde and his wife go to Transylvania and after hearing out that Count Dracula wants to help them. And it turns out it was a trap. Dracula basically makes him into a vampire and gives him as a fuck you, and he calls him Blacula, and that's the name he gets stuck with. So, yeah. But historically, she's Mamuwalde was a real person. He traveled to find help in Central Europe to help stop the slave trade in Africa, but he never came back. she never said, like, historically, like, there was no mention of Dracula, there was no mention of anything. It was just, he went to Europe, he didn't come back. And people just ran with this whole idea that, like, it mixed in with Dracula and whatnot. So that's basically what it is that's what the research she's doing. But as the research continues, as she's learning more about, like, the Blacula murders and the Candyman killings, she basically discovers that there are people following her. Like, there are two separate groups following Angela around. One night, while she's in her hotel, so she hears, like, a knock on her door, and essentially what it is that it's a couple of people who are like, we heard you were you've been talking about Blacula and Candyman, right? Drop that shit now. And she's like, no, I like, who the fuck are you people? And they're like, we are a society that has basically, like, kept these monsters at bay, and the more you dig it up, the more it's going to get worse, and there are powers at play here. So Angela keeps digging, and it's revealed that yes, not only were those killings real and done by Candyman and Mamuwalde, those dudes were real. They were monsters, and, like, there's now, like, cults and sects who are worship them, who worship Mamuwalde and Candyman respectively, and it's through their belief that especially gives Candyman his life. And on the other end, Blacula, his body's been found. Like, they basically say, like, yeah, we found it in New Orleans. A nice little reference I wanted to have to Scream, Blacula Scream. They found it and brought it back to Los Angeles, and they worship his body, and Angela's like, holy shit, you people actually believe that these monsters are real. And yes, and these cults have been at war with each other because they've basically been saying, like, oh, my god is better than your god. So, yeah, they basically call out to Candyman. He comes, kills all of his cult members, but at the same time, on the other end, the Blacula cult, they feed their blood to Blacula's corpse. He rises, and he's hungry. So Angela's obviously caught in the middle of this, and now, both of them, if this was a movie, both Mamuwalde and Robitaille would just be going around, like, it would be a full-on killing spree, until eventually the two find each other. And it doesn't go well, because, like, they both see each other, and, like, Mamuwalde, like, sees, like, when he sees Candyman, he's like, I don't see I see a monster, but I also see a man who became a monster. Like, he can just see, like, just through his eyes, like, he can see Robitaille's story, and by in turn, Candyman is just like, you were also punished for no other crime than you wanted to help your people. I was punished by love. You were also punished by love, but for your people. And Mamuwalde's like, it seems we both become monsters of our own making. And he goes, perhaps. We will see who lives. So the two fight, and already Mamuwalde is like, holy crap, this guy's just as strong as I am. He may be, like, have vampire strength behind him, but like, Candyman is a spirit. It's a spirit that he can't, like, bite down on or try to kill. He can, like, hit him, but he keeps, like, getting back up. More or less, Angela is caught in the crossfire of watching Mamuwalde and Candyman just do damage to one another. Until finally, during the whole, just absolute bloodbath of a fight between the two, it basically just gets to the point where they get into, a fight that spans from one building to the next. And there's, this would be a straight-up, bloodbath fight between the two. Until eventually, a riot squad comes in, and they're just like, truce. They're fighting each other and killing this riot squad in the middle of it. Until eventually, the two monsters, Angela basically realizes that, they're both based on, they both depend on story. And Angela, essentially has this whole thing where she has to write and disprove the existence of Candyman, and whereas Mama Walde, his story is revealed, but she doesn't say Dracula. Like, she basically says, like, he was she basically tries to she lays his spirit to rest through it. So the two do get, like, their bodies are put at rest. Like, that's Angela's whole thing, is to bring, peace to these two monsters, and hopefully they can die as men. So that's how the story ends. Anyway, so there you go, guys. That is Blacula versus Candyman. I want to thank everyone who sent in votes, and like I said before, if you guys would like to have, if you guys would like to be part of those polls, just hit the link below, head on my Patreon, hit the first tier, there you go. But other than that, hope you all enjoyed this. I'm Mr. Multiverse. I'll see you next time in the Multiverse.